All right, so officially, welcome, John.
Hi, John.
Nice to see you. So
Yeah.
let's have a little look at the lesson. Sorry, the quote today. I think to start with, and then we'll dive into the lesson, which I've translated already, and then we'll go into the text section, which, as I said, is quite a monster, but we'll do as much of it as we can. Maybe if we can't finish it all, we'll do half, and then I'll ask Iona if she can join this evening, and we'll finish it.
Okay.
So, because it's one of those ones, maybe two sessions required. Anyway, can you see the screen?
Yep. We often think we know what will make us happy, but the signs shows our minds don't always point us in the right direction. We long for fame and money, or a beach body, or a new car. We expect these things will make us happier. It's just that those expectations are flat out wrong.
That's a professor of psychology at Yale University. Produces something called the Happiness Lab. In fact, why don't you read my little blog post? There's some good stuff in there. Do you want to do that?
Yep. Following on from yesterday's inspirational quote that talked about the power of love overcoming the love of power to bring peace to the world, which you may have thought is somewhat idealistic. Today's quote by Dr. Laurie Santos, a professor of psychology at Yale University who produces the Happiness Lab podcast, tells you very practically where you will never find happiness: in the forms of worldly pleasure and power your ego loves, but which all are temporary and therefore cannot possibly give you lasting. Our insight, based on modern scientific research, aligns with the second noble truth stated by the Buddha 2,500 years ago, based only on his own observations of human life. Desire, or tanha, in his native tongue Pali, which literally means thirst and is generally translated as craving, is the source of all suffering.
So just stop it there. So, the Buddha noticed this 2,500 years ago. It's a fundamental principle of Buddhism. And modern science and the whole mindfulness movement that sprung up since the sort of 70s, 80s, is really saying it's a revival of ancient Buddhist teaching in another guise. So yeah, okay, actually, yes, desiring, pleasure and whatever else is actually not the path to happiness. And I suppose the US, America, is such a good example because it's such an extreme. There's a society that's gone extremely into the hedonic, what she calls the hedonic treadmill, where you're looking for satisfaction externally. So extremely and grossly on so many levels that it's like a correction is needed. The mindfulness movement sprang up in the US as a kind of counter to that, to say, well, this, maybe this isn't actually working, and we need to look elsewhere. And all it is Buddhism in disguise. The mindfulness practice of watching the breath and being aware of body sensations is vipassana. There's nothing else. That's what vipassana is. And then some of these teachings, like the desire, they call it the hedonic treadmill, and that's not going to make you happy. This is second noble truth of Buddhism. Desire or craving is the source of all suffering. Dukkha, you call it. So it's just the same principles and truths, just reframed, for a modern audience in a way that's maybe more palatable than Buddhism, because obviously that 2,500 years later, Buddhism's got It's seen as a religion, and it's got religious connotations, and Buddhist monks, and various sects of it that have splintered off. So the mindfulness is almost like a return to just the source of, okay, well, this is what it is. This is what it's saying. These are the principles. Okay.
Yeah. But of course, the ego, or belief in separation, must separate its desires into parts. So there are 3 types of craving in Buddhist philosophy. Karma tanha, craving for sensual pleasures, i.e. physical sensations and things and activities that stimulate them, such as food, sex, ingesting substances like alcohol and drugs. Bhava tanha, craving for being, wanting to be something. You're not already on the level of form, such as rich, famous, beautiful, or successful, as spoken about in detail in this 39-minute talk by Marissa Peer.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that?
I've watched part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's worth watching the whole thing. Because she's really saying exactly the same thing as A Course in Miracles, and as we talked about during the Art of Letting Go course when we did the naming your game exercise. That it all comes down to your sense of worth and what you believe about yourself. And all she does is helps her clients to affirm their true worth beyond the external, beyond what they've achieved and what they have, to say, I am enough, as I am. That's a statement of spiritual adequacy, saying, I spiritual knowledge, I am enough, I am. And she says it works a treat. These clients heal, and they have amazing breakthroughs, and none of the other therapists are doing it. She goes, well, just do what I do. I don't understand why you don't. There's all this other stuff you do isn't working, because it goes to the core of their belief about themselves.
Vibhava tanha, craving for non-existence, i.e. craving to not experience unpleasant things in the current or a future life, such as unpleasant people or challenging situations, which is also known as devsha in Pali and aversion in English. Interesting. The alternative.
When you crave for something not to be as it is, you go, I want it to change. I'm really, this is very unpleasant. And there's a resistance. It's an aversion movement. So craving and aversion are the polarities of the mind that pull you out of that equanimous state that the Buddha was aiming to help people achieve, which, that equanimity was the equivalent of the state of peace that comes from forgiveness. So the same, really, it's the same teaching, just different language. Jesus talks about recently about the idle wishes of the ego and the grievances as being co-makers or partners in sponsoring the world you see, the world you perceive. So it's this idea: idle wishes are the cravings of the ego, the grievances are the aversions, and these are what create our perception of an external world that's not very satisfying, creates a dissatisfying, unhappy reality, which is exactly what the Buddha said. So it's all the same truth, just seeing it coming through in these different ancient teachings, as well as interesting thing is that modern science and research is saying the same thing. So the research, one of the pieces of research she's referring to would be the Grant study, which was in Harvard. They did a study it's been going on for 80 years of people who graduated from Harvard in 1944. It was a class of 240.
Oh yeah.
270, and really they found through tracking them through their life that the only thing that brought them happiness was love in their relationships with family, partners, friends, and so on. The people who had warm, loving relationships were way happier than anyone else, irrespective of the levels of success. And there were some highly successful people. There was, I think, 3 senators and 1 president in the class, and business people, and whatever. And they found that really happiness is love. Full stop. That's what how the head of that study summarized it. Happiness is love. After 80 years of intensive study, so none of these other things are really gonna work. It's only love that's gonna work. This was the research. Okay.
Okay, the alternative to the ego's obsession with seeking for satisfaction in the external world is invented in these dysfunctional ways and never finding it. Seek and do not find, as Jesus phrases it so well in ACIM, is to connect with and accept that you are love itself, which is the eternal source of all happiness. This will make you indescribably happy when felt at its strongest intensity, which is sometimes called bliss or ecstasy. But even when you're busy thinking and doing, being connected to your source will create an underlying feeling of contentment and peace. It can be called happiness or flow. You're doing all the mind training exercises and daily lessons in the AOLG program to learn to be consistently happy in every situation you experience, or what Jesus calls full transfer of training in the ACIM workbook. So this mind training will help you to be consistently happier, more flowing and more loving in every aspect of your life. To help you apply the insight in today's quote to every situation you experience today and continue this process of full transfer of training, why not read today's quote whenever you review today's ICM work lesson?
Yeah. So the idea is use the quote and the lesson as sort of reminders. Yeah. So any thoughts on that?
No. I mean, it's bringing us back to the way to happiness is to find it in oneself.
Yeah. So at the highest level, we call that bliss or ecstasy, but just an underlying feeling of contentment and peace as you go through your daily life is also happiness. I think that's what most people are missing. Is that there's a continuous sense of discontent, of unhappiness in the mind, rather than I'm happy as I am right now. I'm still doing my stuff and I'm living my life, but it's all kind of unfolding quite happily. There isn't that continuous undercurrent of discontent, dissatisfaction, dukkha, is what the Buddha called it, which seems to characterize modern life, but clearly it also characterized life 2,500 years ago in India, because he noticed it there too. So nothing much has really changed, even though we have much more advanced technology. The patterns of the mind are still the same as they were.
Yeah.
So have we really progressed? One wonders. We're still struggling with the same issues.
Yeah.
Which are eternal. These are spiritual issues, and no amount of technology is going to fix that. That mind pattern. In fact, technology just amplifies it and makes it worse. So we invent things like social media and TV and all this communication technology, radio, and often it's very distracting. My parents like to listen to the radio in the mornings. So I might be working, and then they switch this thing on, and just people prattling away. And you kind of go like, what are they actually talking about? It's just this endless stream of words coming forth, and then we sort of think we have to listen to this, but it's just a program, isn't it? That all these things are kind of somehow valuable, when actually silence silence is way more valuable. It's just noise filling the silent space that could be there, or listening to some nice music perhaps that's more soothing. Anyway, so that brings us to our lesson, I think.
Yep.
So my only function is the one. You want to read those?
My only function is the one God or love gave me. My happiness, my function are one.
Yeah. So let's go to, just in case we're going to do any edits. I decided I'd do this so that we speed things up. The translation's already done, so this shouldn't take too long. Okay, so that's just the instructions and the review. So there we go. If you want to read the original, and then we'll go to the alternative.
My only function is the one God gave me. I have no function but the one God gave me. Recognition releases me from all conflict because it means I cannot have conflicting goals. With one purpose only, I am always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. All doubt must disappear as I acknowledge that my only function is the one God gave me.
Okay.
So,
translation.
my only function is the one love gave me. I have no function but the one pure formless awareness of perfect love gave me. This recognition releases me from all conflict because it means I cannot have conflicting goals. With one purpose only, I am always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. All doubt must disappear as I acknowledge that my only function is the one pure formless awareness or perfect love gave me.
Okay. So any thoughts on that?
Well, it's kind of stating the obvious in a kind of nice, clear way, bringing us back to the idea of unity of thought, power of our decision maker uniting with the desire or will of God.
I cannot have conflicting goals. I thought that was useful to remember.
Yeah.
If I only have one function, then I cannot have conflicting goals.
Yeah.
One purpose only. I'm always certain what to do, what to say, and what to think. Which, if you think about it, is the one kind of unifying factor that can be there behind all your decisions. Okay, so what would love do? What would this unconditional loving presence called the Holy Spirit? What does that think? What does that say? What does that do in the situation? And although the situations change and the form changes, the substance, the essence of it doesn't change. So how you respond is in a loving way to every situation, and that becomes the one way that you deal with all the apparently different situations that crop up in your life. So then all doubt disappears, all conflict disappears, and you're saying, well, this is my only function. My only function is to connect with this love, allow this love to flow through me. And then the corollary in the next lesson, he says, well, your function is also your happiness. So it's not like he's asking us to sacrifice anything. He's saying, well, this will bring you happiness. You just need to let love come through you. And happiness is inevitable. So don't focus on being happy. Focus on allowing love to come through and extend through you. And happiness must be yours. Which is the same conclusion as the research came to. The 80 years of research, that when you allow love to express through you, then you feel happy. Okay. So happy with first paragraph?
Yep, that's good.
You want to give a little summary of that?
Yep. Join with love and and join with love and go into flow. Going into flow will bring happiness.
And remove all conflicting goals when you have only one function. It's the way out of conflict to peace and happiness. So the happiness is really just a pointer to the state of mind, isn't it? You could call it inner peace, you can call it contentment, fulfillment. It's a state where you're not desiring and you're not avoiding or resisting. You're in that, what the Buddha called the middle way, the equanimous state, or the state of that forgiveness brings, where you've let go and your mind is calm and clear, and you might not be ecstatically happy, but you're at peace. There's a sense of peace, and if you stay in that state, we call that flow. It's just like a flowing presence that's guiding you through your day. So it's flow is happiness in action. So these are modern, the modern kind of words we use: happiness, flow, to describe these very ancient ideas, been around for thousands of years. Okay, so the specific applications, can you read those?
Okay. My perception of this does not change my function. This does not give me a function other than the one God gave me. Let me not use this to justify a function God did not give me.
Okay. Translations.
My perception of this does not change my function. This does not give me a function other than the one pure formless awareness of perfect love gave me. Let me not use this to justify a function pure formless awareness of perfect love did not give me.
Any thoughts on those specific applications?
Now they're kind of reassuring statements.
Saying the same thing in different ways. So however I perceive it, I have one function, and that doesn't change. And I like the last one, let me not use this to justify a function love did not give me. Your formless awareness of perfect love. Which is a very high, the reason I put that in is because it's a very high state of mind, isn't it? Okay, yeah. Pure formless awareness of perfect love. Wow, okay. So only that awareness is my function, and only that is justified. So if I've got any other thoughts and ideas, I need to let them go to make way for that. Okay, so my only function is the one love gave me, which is to experience love, allow that to come through me, and then that leads nicely into the next one, which is,
my happiness, my function are one. All things that come from God are one. They come from oneness. They must be received as one. Fully my function is my happiness, because both come from the same source. And I must learn to recognize what makes me happy, if I would find happiness.
Okay, and then go to
yeah. All things that come from pure formless awareness of perfect oneness, one. Come from oneness and must be received as one. Fulfilling my function is my happiness because both come from the same source. I must learn to recognize what makes me happy.
If I would find happiness. Okay, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's, when we align with our real function, which we go to a state of happiness. Because our function comes from the same source as our happiness. Yeah.
Those come from the same source. So love and happiness are really the same. These are different different words, and we might experience them slightly differently here. But actually, in truth, they are one.
Yeah.
When we're in that loving state, then we're happy. And if we feel separated and unloving, then it makes us feel unhappy. It's a pretty obvious truth, really, based on anyone's personal experience. They've had a few years of living in this world and various relationships. Then that's what you observe when you're not connected to someone and there's not a flow of love. Then it there's a feeling of unhappiness that arises in you. It doesn't feel good or nice or comfortable. It's definitely disturbing, unhappy. So just pointing out the obvious and going, well, say, look, your happiness and your function are one. Don't separate them. So the ego is always trying to say, well, yes, I'll make you happy, but your happiness lies in the future. And your happiness lies in some worldly accomplishment or goal. It's not simply within you and your decision to love. So it tries to split that and say, no, you've got many other functions. The assumption is, behind all the ego's goals, is that one day it will make you happy. That's the unwritten assumption. One day, but not right now. You've got to do this and this and this, and then when you get there, then you'll be happy. And so what Marisa Peer noticed, their clients, is they'd really played that program to its maximum extreme, and they just didn't find it. They were very unhappy. In fact, more unhappy possibly than before they started on their quest for happiness in the external achievements and possessions and so on. So she had to just bring them back to this awareness that I am enough as I am, and from that comes from that source of love comes happiness. It's that simple. When you connect to that source and you really feel it, then happiness follows. Okay, so want to summarize that paragraph?
Well, our happiness and our function come from the same source, and when we fulfill our function, we also attain happiness.
Yeah. My happiness and my function are one, and related to the previous lesson, that function is love. So when you are connected to this love and you're expressing this love, then you will be happy, and so your happiness and your function are one. It seems so obvious and simple, but he needs to state these things because they're all backwards and upside down to the ego.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the specific forms.
This cannot separate my happiness from my function. The oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this. Nothing, including this, can justify the illusion of happiness apart from my function.
Okay.
Yep.
It's different ways of saying the one idea. My happiness and my function are one. So nothing can separate me from that. The oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this. So what he's saying is any temptations, just remind yourself of this simple truth. That in the situation, So the practical application of this lesson is in whatever the situation is. Your function is still to be happy. Don't allow yourself to get sucked into another function. That your job in that situation is to do anything other than to let it go and experience love again and allow happiness to come into your mind. So we have all these justifications for denying the simple truth that my happiness and my function are one. And most people, if you're not on a spiritual path like this one, a good spiritual path, most people don't define their function in life as happiness. Not at all. They go, I know I've got to do this. I define myself by my job, my career, my family. A lot of women are, it's all about the family. It's about, making sure everyone else is okay. And, they wouldn't define it in their mind as, actually my only function is to be happy myself. That's, not even in their awareness. And of course, then they're not. So, and the ego is going to say, well, isn't that awfully self-indulgent? Your only function is to be happy. Who are you? You've got to kind of work and struggle and suffer. And maybe one day, when you retire, maybe you can have some happiness. That's sort of the. And do you observe in your friends who have retired? Do you observe that they are any happier than when they were working?
No, not noticeably.
Yeah.
I think different things come into play. Different occupations, different.
Well, it's a pattern of mind. If they're not happy before and they're working, then they haven't learned these simple principles, and they'll tend to just play it out in their in their new life, their retired life.
Yeah.
It's the same pattern of mind.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to the decision, and then what you do follows. Whatever you're doing follows from that. If you're retired, well, if you accept my happiness and my function are one, it can be a very happy state. Okay, well, I don't have to do so much anymore. I can be more, and just be happy, as I am. I think a lot of people struggle because this program of, my happiness is sometime in the future. When you retire, well, you start to, okay, well, there isn't. This is retirement, and then the next step is death. So if I'm not happy now, when am I ever gonna be happy? And I don't have so much busyness to distract me anymore. So I just have to kind of sit then with my mind, and I notice my parents. There's this quest for activity. You can't just sit and be, especially in my dad. Can't just sit and be and go, okay, I am happy now. It's always, well, what's the next thing? And the next activity to kind of fill the time. Always, busy doing something. And that's a symptom of the mind not just wanting to go, okay, I can just rest in the present moment. I actually have the license to not do very much because I'm retired. Let me just sit and be and really experience that, just a simple happiness of being in this state of pure formless awareness, of perfect oneness, as he calls God. Because the mind hasn't been trained for that. So, speaking of which, shall we do a little meditation to make sure you get in the med, and then we'll go into the text, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. So just making yourself comfortable. Sitting feet shoulder width apart. Up your hands in your lap, back straight, or you can stand up if you want, John, that's okay. Close your eyes and start off with a Nice deep breath in through the nose. So you're breathing in, you're noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Draw the energy up the spine. Clench the sphincter muscle used to contract the flow of urine or squeeze the last drops out. That locks the energy in. And draw the energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart, connecting with your heart space. And then draw it up into the crown of your head, pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind. Notice any thoughts and emotions going on, any sensations related to these in the body. Take another sip of air and just breathe in, create some space, some light, bring spacious light awareness in, and just observe what you're thinking, what you're feeling. If there's any unhappiness, any dissatisfaction with anything, observe the thoughts, observe the emotions, and remind yourself that my only function is the one God or love gave me. Or say to yourself, I have no function but the one God or love or pure formless awareness of perfect love gave me. This recognition releases me from more conflict, because it means I cannot have conflicting goals. So just notice that your unhappiness is really related to holding conflicting goals in your mind. Observe those goals playing out on different levels of your mind, and just breathe in again. Imagine breathing light into those thoughts and emotions, into those areas in your body. Create some presence, some light, and so my perception of this doesn't change my function at all. This situation, this person, this situation, event does not give me a function other than the one God or pure formless awareness of perfect love gave me. Let me not use this to justify a function. Pure formless awareness of perfect love did not give me. And then you exhale. It's exhaling, blowing it all away. With the breeze of your breath. To the nothingness that it really is. Rest here for a few moments in the function love gave you, which is to be that love, to be the loving presence, to feel it, to extend it or express it. Feel it extending out from you to bless your brothers, anyone involved in the situation you brought to mind. Feel that there's a natural extension. Your mind is blessing them rather than cursing them, condemning them. Feel that openness, that expansiveness, that light. And in that light, in that awareness, breathe in again. A nice deep breath in, blowing up the stomach like a balloon, clenching the sphincter muscle. To lock the energy in, you draw the energy up your spine. Into your heart center. draw it up into your upper back, into the crown of your head. Just pausing at the top of the inhale. Breathing this loving presence into every pore, every cell, every muscle of your body, every part of your mind, every fiber of your being. Again, observe your state of mind, observe thoughts, emotions, body sensations. Just looking for anything that's an obstruction, a block to the awareness of love and happiness. Might show up as a little bit of frustration with something, irritation, ranging to anger, rage, hatred. I'll try to attack thoughts. Whatever these thoughts are, just notice them, observe them. Remind yourself that my happiness and my function are one. It's one and the same thing. So it is my function to be happy. So breathe that truth in. Every cell, every muscle, every pore of your body. Remind yourself, my happiness and my function are one and the same, because all things that come from God or pure formless awareness, a perfect oneness, are one. By definition, perfect oneness is one. They come from oneness and must be received as one. So fulfilling my function is my happiness, because both come from the same source. I must learn to recognize what makes me happy if I would find happiness. You might, if you still have some ideas lurking, negative thoughts and emotions, use some of these specific applications of this idea to say, this cannot separate my happiness from my function. The oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this and nothing. Including this, whatever the situation is, can justify the illusion of happiness apart from my function. And then exhale out through the mouth. The feeling of just letting go, dropping any resistance with the breath. Releasing it, letting it go into nothingness it really is. So blow it all away like a dark cloud, pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out, and just rest here in the peace and the stillness, the emptiness, great silence, it's been called emptiness, in which you do not have to seek for anything, and it will arise in your mind naturally when you let go of illusions, and the truth must be there, must come forward. So just resolve to let all of these illusions go, all the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, Jesus calls them, by reminding yourself that my happiness and my function are one, and I only have one function because it's the one love gave me. My only function is the one love gave me, and my happiness and my function are one. Those statements support each other. It's part of this thought system of the Holy Spirit, the awareness of oneness that integrates, that makes sense, that's it's complementary, every idea supports every other idea. So just take a couple of minutes to experience the truth of what he's saying in this lesson, to sink into the happiness, to feel this loving presence. The name of God, as we translate it, is pure formless awareness of perfect love. So this pure formless awareness of perfect love wants, use the word wants, but intends, is waiting for you in your mind. And when you enter that state, then you can only be happy. It's an ancient state of mind. It's available and accessible right now, because there is no time in it. Your happiness and your function are one eternally. That has always been the case, it always will be the case, now and forevermore in time. So with this eternal knowledge that you are destined to be happy forever, for all eternity, just sink into this eternal space of now. Say one more time that my happiness and my function are one, and my only function is the one pure formless awareness of perfect love gave me. Any thoughts arise, seemingly disturb this deep peace, just observe them and I'm willing to let them go. So breathe in, remind yourself that my perception of the situation doesn't change my function at all. My only function is the one love gave me, and that function is to be happy. So this situation cannot interrupt my true function. Oneness of my happiness and my function remains wholly unaffected by this. Nothing, including this situation, can justify the illusion of happiness apart from my function. And so you exhale and have a sense of blowing that block away, the breeze of your breath, to the nothingness it really is. Imagine like a dark cloud just being blown away. It's drifting away to reveal the blue sky beyond. It's a blue sky of your pure formless awareness of perfect love, light of your source, which is perfect love shining through it, blazing through your mind. There is no obstruction to that light, that awareness. It's in you, you are in it. It's one transcendent, blissful experience. So just allow yourself to have that experience. Just know experientially that love and your true function are one, and that love brings you happiness. So love equals happiness equals your source. They come, it's the same source, it comes from the same place. So sink into this, not as an intellectual realization, but as a deeply felt experience for another couple of minutes of deep silence. Okay, so just gently coming back to an awareness of the body and the breath, senses, and the world. Just observing the subtle sensations of the breath again, and on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, the stomach, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises, and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And pausing at the top of the inhale, you smile, scan your mind, just noticing any thoughts, any emotions going on. If there's any negativity, whatever it is, just notice and just be willing to let it go. So you're going to exhale, just blow it all out with the breeze of your breath. Notice how the energy raised up into the spine subsides back down. Notice the air flowing out of your mouth, chest and stomach gently suck back in. Bottom of the exhale, pull the lower stomach in through the spine. Notice that sensation. So while your tension is down there in your lower stomach groin region, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Noticing what you're feeling with your hands. There's a subtle taste in your mouth. Notice what touching, maybe as you breathe in again, there's a subtle smell in your nose, maybe notice that. Notice what you're hearing, whatever the sounds are, just from the state of pure formless awareness, perfect love, just very smooth, aware state. You observe these sounds, feelings with detachment. So you don't make them important or real. You don't attach your mind to them, give them significance, give them meaning. You simply allow them. They're just blowing through your mind like clouds just drifting by. They come and they go. They are impermanent. Or in the Pali, in the Buddhist teaching, it's anicca. These are all anicca, impermanent forms, arising and then passing away. So happiness comes when you simply observe that impermanence of everything in this world. Permanence on the level of form means that there is a permanent awareness that is aware of the impermanence. So that permanent awareness is God. This is the perfect love, pure formless awareness we refer to. So stay anchored in that awareness, connect to it, experience it, feel it, notice it. That anchors it into your awareness. For the rest of the session, as we go into our translation, keep some awareness there. And one way of doing that is just keep some awareness on your breath. So as you breathing in and breathing out, you just notice that subtle flow of the breath. It keeps you anchored in this awareness, rather than wandering off into detours, delays, blocks to the awareness of love's presence, Jesus calls them, which are not going to make you happy. So on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a few moments to look around, observe the various objects in the room around you. In this very calm state of mind, there's no need to judge them, to name them, to label them, interpret them in any way. You just allow them to be, and notice the awareness behind them is the same. Whatever you're looking at, your eyes randomly rest on a few objects just for a few seconds each, and then move on. Really, what you're looking at on the level of form, your body's eyes, what you're perceiving doesn't matter. What matters is the underlying awareness. It's the awareness that underlies all perceptions, and that's what we're trying to get in touch with. And that is what will make you very happy. That's the source of love, and it's also the source of your happiness, as today's review lesson, one of them, my happiness and my function are one, lesson 66 says. So that brings us to the end of the meditation and the lesson for today. So let's move into the text, shall we? Okay.
Yep. Good.
Still there, John?
Yep. Yep.
All right. So we go into the text then. Let's share my screen again. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, it's a bit of a monster. It's 18 paragraphs.
Yeah.
But we'll get as far as we can. Just you've got an hour and 10 minutes, eh?
Yeah. I did have a quick look at it before, and it's got it doesn't have the same complex kind of.
Yeah, so it'll be quicker.
Yeah.
Same complex language and structure.
No, it doesn't. No. It's
Yeah.
frustrating, is that complex language. And
Yeah. Well, the problem is it does need translation to understand it, really.
it does.
Yeah. So I guess we just got to suck it up and take it when we get one of those. But they don't happen that often, fortunately. So. All right. So this
Dynamics
one
of the ego.
Yeah.
Dynamics of the belief in separation. Okay. It's good.
Yeah, which is a nice alternative title, because that's really all it is. It's how
Yeah.
this belief, how this belief plays out. That's the dynamics in your mind and in your life. So let's see what Jesus has to say about this one. Let me just going to make this a little bit bigger, so it's a bit easier to read. So line spacing. Okay, so there we go, and yep. Okay, so do you want to read the original, and then we'll go. In fact, if you want to speed it up, shall we just read it and translate it as we go?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, happy with that?
Yeah.
Saves a minute or two.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah. No one can escape. No one can escape from illusions unless he looks at them. But not looking is the way they are protected. I think that's straightforward.
Yeah.
There is no need to shrink from illusions, for they cannot be dangerous. It's fine. We are ready to look more closely at the ego's, the belief in separation's thought system, because together we have the lamp, the awareness that will dispel it. And since you realize you don't want it, you must be ready. Don't know whether you want to put belief in separation instead of ego's thought system, or
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I quite like lamp, but it's you know, we could put awareness in there instead.
Yeah, it's symbolic. Because they have the lamp that will dispel it. Awareness that will dispel it. Or the true awareness, light. We just translate. What do you think? Awareness or true awareness?
I think awareness is fine.
Okay. We'll dispel it.
And since you realize you do not want it, you must be ready. Let us be very calm in doing this, for we are merely looking honestly for truth. The dynamics of the belief in separation will be our lesson for a while, but we must look first at this to see beyond it, since you have made it real.
Sorry.
We will undo the error quietly together and then look beyond it to truth.
Yeah, that was fairly easy, wasn't it? Compared with yesterday. I
Yeah.
believe just one substitution there. Let's look first to see beyond it since you've made it real. Yeah. So, yeah, any thoughts on that? I'm going to give a little summary.
No, I think it's nice. It's just a simple introduction. It's saying that the ego has no power if we look at it straight on. It's only by avoiding looking at it that we protect it.
Yeah. So it's kind of this paradox. I think a lot of people struggle with it because you look at the error and then he's saying, but you must overlook it. So some parts of the course he's saying you overlook it. The Holy Spirit doesn't see the error. You must overlook it. So the Holy Spirit is the awareness of oneness. He is, the mind's reinterpretation of the error. I think that's what he means. So you see it, you observe it, you notice it, but then you correct it in your mind. You say, okay, well, this is, from this perspective of oneness, this isn't true. So therefore, I'm not going to dwell on this. I'm not going to focus on the error. I'm going to release it in my mind. I'm going to let go of the way I'm thinking about it, feeling about it, and so I correct it. If I never look, then I can never correct it. The error just remains in my mind. Awareness, no error can be corrected. So the process is a two-step one. We must be aware of it, coming from a higher awareness or Holy Spirit, and then the choice to let it go becomes obvious once we have that awareness. And we must look first, because otherwise we are listening to the belief in separation that doesn't want us to look, because it doesn't want us to see the error clearly, so that we can let it go. And just to reference to the recovery movement, I talked about Alcoholics Anonymous 12-step program. It starts with the acknowledgement. Okay, let's look. Yeah, okay, I have a problem. It's acknowledgement of the problem so that you can invite the solution. David Hoffmeister, I don't know if you watched that talk I posted a few days ago of his, he's saying in order to heal, you must do one thing, and that's accept you have a perceptual problem. So let's look at that problem then, and how that problem is playing out in any particular situation that confronts you, and then be able to let it go. Once you recognize, okay, this is just a problem in my perception, then I have the real source of the problem, which is actually in my belief and in my perception, and then I can find another way to look at it. I can let go of that misperception, and the belief that the belief and the perception go hand in hand. You see, so that's how the ego dynamics work, as he will no doubt explain. Okay, so you happy with?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number two.
I think it's quite interesting, this notion of the decision to look at the ego.
Mm.
I know in my own life what triggered me to look at the ego was I'd been in my early 20s, and I remember having a friend who was doing some primal scream therapy at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about 1970s.
Mm.
I used to think, God, that sounds horrendous. And but up until then, I'd only been in conventional life,
Mm.
and this primal concept of primal scream kind of was outside of my area of comprehension,
Yes.
and was scary. Um,
Did you do it, or did you just heard
no,
about
no, 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 no. I hid from it. I didn't.
it?
Um,
Mm.
it scared me. But
Mm.
then, I did pack in my job and just went traveling, and it opened up my mind a lot
Mm.
to, to looking at other things.
Mm.
And I travelled quite a bit, um, and then when I got back, I took an interest. I didn't have a major personal problem. I mean, life wasn't massively difficult.
Mm.
Um, but the traveling triggered me into taking an interest in personal development.
Mm. Mm.
And I didn't actually look at primal scream, but I looked at lots of other things,
Yeah.
which was the beginning of my own journey. And
Yeah. Well, that's how it works, isn't it?
yeah, and just the opening up of the mind to um, looking at the ego.
Mm. Yeah. And it's so something like that. Although you never did it, the idea that there is this another way.
Yeah, yeah,
It's really another way of managing your life, a modality, something outside of your comfort zone, um,
yeah,
and just be the trigger for like, okay, well, yes, there's something else. So let me just, and then it plants a seed, and then you go traveling, and with travel, the advantage of it is it can open up the mind because you're seeing other people, the way other people live, other cultures. You're not just locked into your way. So it definitely expands the mind when you do that, and then you're more open to
yeah.
other ideas. That's how it
And
works.
I can see that in people around me, including my own kids,
Mm.
because they've only ever been in the system.
Yeah.
Uh, they they they're kind of, they won't go beyond it.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's that kind of inert fear of, oh, that's scary. I won't
Mm.
go there.
Yeah. Yeah. So then that fear of the unknown
Yeah,
keeps them in a kind of mental prison.
and you can see how much effort they put into not going there.
Yeah. It takes enormous amount of energy
Yeah, 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 yeah.
resist to
Yeah,
resist it. Yeah. Um,
and stress. You know.
yeah. 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 Well, it's Jesus at some point says, the amounts of energy and stress you've
Mm,
expended
mm,
on maintaining this ego thought system,
yeah,
is enormous. And it that blocks your energy. You're using a
mm,
lot of energy to do that rather than freeing that to for exploration, spiritual exploration. Saying, okay,
yeah,
I'm open, and I'll direct my energy to towards this, in this direction, which
yeah,
then opens up the mind. And I've seen it as well with my family, and so on. So it's like if you start on the path and you start opening your mind, it definitely, you know, one thing leads to another. I've made various decisions that haven't been in the box. You know, I didn't continue on. I did 4 years of a university, and then I decided to go play professional squash. That was a completely out of the box decision that took me out of the system. You know, and that then leads to further. Because of that, I was doing meditation and started learning about breath work to improve my squash. So then that is then the foundation of your spiritual unfoldment. You know, so one decision leads to another, and that's how it works. You know, one little decision at a time takes you in diametrically opposed directions. Each decision is a step in one direction or another. You're either following the ego, the belief in separation, or Holy Spirit, the belief in oneness. And each one is another step in that direction. So if you keep going, you know, by the time, like, you know, now I'm nearly 50, but I've taken many steps in this direction over, you know, 20, 30 years. So then you end up being in a very different, having gone in a very different direction from someone else who over those 20, 30 years has made different decisions. And it's like chalk and cheese then. And it's just decision by decision by decision, moment by moment by moment. So that's the value of this path. It's like, okay, he's just asking us to be aware moment by moment of this decision, you know, that you need to make, and let's bring the ego into recognition so that we can make a better decision in each situation. Which is why you need to look at it, because if you don't look at it, guess what's making the decision? The belief in separation. Without your awareness, it's just by default. It's the default program, and you haven't really questioned it or brought it into any kind of awareness of like, is this actually true, or does this really need to be looked at and questioned? Okay, so thanks for sharing that little vignette from your life. It's always interesting to see, you know, like where it starts. So, you know, it also interesting. I also started in my 20s, sort of mid to late. Well, I'd started personal growth when I was in my teens, but really the kind of letting go of that ego program of, you know, I need to do stuff in order to be valuable and achieve stuff, only started at my late 20s when I experienced a major failure. Basically, that was the catalyst for my starting. Okay, so number 2, you want to read this one?
Yeah. What is healing but the removal of all that stands in the way of knowledge? And how else can one dispel illusions except by looking at them directly, without protecting them? Be not afraid. Therefore, for what you will be looking at is the source of fear. And you are beginning to learn that fear is not real. You are also learning that its effects can be dispelled merely by denying their reality. The next step is obviously to recognize that what has no effects does not exist. Laws do not operate in a vacuum. What leads to nothing has not happened. Reality is recognized by its extension. What leads to nothing could not be real. That's an interesting statement there. I think everything up to number 7 is straightforward. Number 7, if reality is recognized by its extension, what leads to nothing could not be real. If reality is recognized by extension, by its products, by what it produces, what leads to nothing not be real.
Yeah, it's pretty logical.
Yeah.
It's really nothing. Of course, the illusion of the ego is that it's something. It's given us form to focus on, but it's really nothing in truth. So we recognize its nothingness, then we recognize its unreality. The two go The two really go hand in hand.
Do not be afraid then to look upon fear, for it cannot be seen. Clarity undoes confusion by definition. Clarity undoes confusion by definition.
Yeah.
And to look upon darkness through light must dispel it.
Okay. So, shall we? Doesn't need much translation. Just the last sentence.
Clarity undoes confusion by definition. And to look upon darkness was lack of awareness through awareness must dispel it. On darkness,
Call it limited awareness. Through true awareness must dispel it.
Yeah.
So we look at that limited awareness, which is all the thoughts and emotions that make up the ego, and we go, who's looking? What's looking at it? Then there must be another awareness that's able to look at the limited awareness and say, no, this isn't true. And that dispels it. Just by bringing awareness into it, that's a huge part of dispelling it, isn't it? Because what's looking? There's another awareness that's able to observe it and say, okay, well, I see, and make an evaluation that is limited awareness. That's darkness. This isn't what I want. So who's looking and what's evaluating? Immediately that takes you into the higher awareness of oneness, which is the Holy Spirit. And then the decision becomes quite obvious. If you can really look and see, okay, this is limited awareness. I see it for what it really is. Then the next step, which is the choice to let it go, must be obvious. Well, why would I want to continue as remaining in this limited awareness when I realize it's limiting? You just can't if you see it. Which is why the ego's primary defense against this is simply not to be aware, to be ignorant. Don't look, don't be aware, because as soon as you come into this awareness, you must dispel it. The ego must be dispelled as soon as there's any kind of true awareness that comes in. And then you notice, you mentioned your kids and stuff. They won't look. They don't want to look, because as soon as you look, you have to see and you have to start correcting. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
So then the ego's defense is don't look, just deny. Don't deny the problem, don't really look there, and just carry on as if everything's okay. And that, as you say, it takes enormous energy and effort to maintain that kind of defensive mechanism. Okay, so you want to summarize number 2?
It's just encouraging us to look at what is. It's encouraging us not to be concerned, but to look at the ego, to look at the thought, belief, and separation. And when we do that, it will dissolve because it is not real. And it's proved it's proved not real because its effects.
Yeah. So the methodology here is very simple. He's saying look at the effects of it. Its effects can be dispelled merely by denying their reality. So by simply looking at all the effects of the ego and saying, no, this isn't real, therefore I'm not going to believe in it, I'm not going to give it any reality in my mind or my life, you must dispel the source of those effects, which is the false belief. So this is how we do it. It's very difficult to let go of the belief directly. How do you let go of a belief directly? You let go of it by denying the effects of the belief in separation. And then it must undo the belief. If there are no effects, then, as he says, reality is recognized by its extension. What leads to nothing could not be real. So if you keep denying the extensions of the so-called belief in separation, the effects of it, then your mind must be learning that this belief isn't true, that it's not real. And this is the way you undo the ego, simply by denying all of its effects. That denial we call forgiveness or letting go. Deny its effects on your mind. So you give it no power to influence your thoughts and your emotions. That's really what he's saying. Because as soon as you give it that power, and now you're thinking about it and you have feelings about whatever related to this belief in separation, the belief is obviously working. The belief is there. It's present, and it seems to be real in your awareness. So deny the reality of the projections of the belief, because remember, this is all a projection of the belief in separation. And you must also deny the belief itself. And so that's the way out. It's the reinterpretation of the ego's projection by the Holy Spirit is then the way out of the dream. So the very mechanism the ego's used to enslave you into the dream world, which is this external projection, is the way that you free yourself through the reinterpretation. So maybe just I'll bring this up so you can have just a quick reminder. So if we go into a diagram, so the projection of the belief in separation outwards is what leads to the so-called world we live in, the universe. So it's the defense mechanism. So Jesus is saying, well, just reinterpret all of it from the perspective of oneness, and the projection becomes your way out. Deny the reality of the effects, the projection of the belief, and you must also deny the belief itself, which then is the way out of this whole thought system based on that belief, and your way back to the awareness of perfect love or pure formless awareness. So the ego's Achilles heel is the very mechanism of projection it uses as its primary defense. And this is just saying, well, yes, just reinterpret that, and you can be free just by the simple act of looking at these and then perceiving them differently. That's what he said. Look at them and perceive them differently. This is how you're going to wake up and how you're going to let go of this belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, happy to move on.
Yep. Let us begin this lesson in ego dynamics, belief in separations dynamics, by understanding that the term itself does not mean anything.
Okay, sorry, have you done that? I'll just type it, it's easier. This lesson in
Separation dynamics.
Belief in separation dynamics, or just separation dynamics?
Oh, yeah.
I think separation dynamics.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Let us begin this lesson in separation dynamics by understanding that the term itself does not mean anything. It contains the very contradiction in terms that makes it meaningless. Dynamics implies the power to do something, and the whole separation fallacy lies in the belief that the belief in separation has the power to do anything. The belief in separation is fearful to you because you believe this. Yet the truth is very simple.
Copied it. Keep. Okay, truth is very simple. All power is.
All power is of pure of love. All power is of love.
Okay.
What is not of him has no power to do anything. What is not of it has no power to do anything.
How about
What does not come from love has no power to do anything.
happy with that?
Yep.
Okay. Want to give a little summary of that paragraph?
Well, it's saying that dynamics implies the ability to do something, but the whole thing that's going on here is that it only has the ability to do something if we give it the power to do so by believing in it.
Yeah. So we believe it has power, and so we have, it believes it can do stuff, and it actually can do nothing because it's not a true belief. So what does not come from love has no power to do anything. So whatever the ego's done, the entire belief in separation, so that's the entire cosmos, the universe, physical universe, the world, is nothing. This is a nothing, but it's a product of nothing, product of a false belief. It's a massive reinterpretation of the whole dream of the world, isn't it? When you really accept what he's saying, it's like, whoa, this is not a trivial exercise in changing your mind.
Yeah.
You must change your mind about all of it, because as we see frequently, it's one belief.
Yeah.
The entire cosmos, everything that seemingly happened since then in time, the world that you see, you perceive with your senses, is a projection of a false belief, and that belief never really happened.
Mm.
So therefore, none of this really happened. And so our only job is to remember that. And to remember it, we must deny the reality of the projections, of the effects of the belief. To remember that the belief is actually nothing. The temptation the ego is always giving us is to make it into something, to perceive these things as real, give them reality in our minds, and then of course the belief must be real, but sponsored them. So it's when you understand the metaphysics, then the way out becomes very obvious.
Yeah.
Which is why he teaches us, he teaches us how this ego really works, what the dynamics of it are, because then we can undo it.
Mm.
So all power is of pure formless awareness of perfect love. So all power comes from this, and this is nothing. What does not come from love has no power to do anything. Let's just make it, because we don't want to repeat the whole thing again. Okay, so happy with that paragraph?
Yeah. When we look at oh yeah.
Just copy and paste it. I keep doing that. I wish they had double. Can only keep one thing on the clipboard. Okay, maybe you can. There must be a way. I'm not sure how. Look at the belief in separation.
When we look at the belief in separation,
did the wrong one there. Yeah.
When we look at the belief in separation, then we are not considering dynamics but delusions. We can surely regard a delusional system without fear. It cannot have any effects on its source, for it cannot have any effects if its source is not real. Fear becomes more obviously inappropriate if you recognize the belief in separation's goal. Which is so clearly senseless that any effort on its behalf is necessarily expended on nothing. Belief in separation's goal is quite explicitly autonomy, separation autonomy. Quite explicitly separation's autonomy, I'm thinking.
Explicitly ego. Quite explicitly ego autonomy, the belief in separation's autonomy. Yeah. Ego. I think we need an apostrophe in this. The identity of separation's autonomy. Quite explicitly. Maybe we just go, it's quite explicitly its autonomy. What do you think? That's a bit neater.
Yeah. Good.
Or its own autonomy.
From the beginning, then, its purpose is to be separate, sufficient unto itself and independent of any power except its own. This is why it is a symbol of separation.
It's like this, the image that comes to mind for me, it's like this kind of random belief just sitting on its own in our mind. And, its only goal is to maintain that autonomy, to maintain that separate existence that it's now created in our mind, sitting randomly somewhere in nowhere land, really. It's just like this nowhere idea in our mind. And it's happened within the domain of pure formless awareness. There is this pure awareness that's still there. But now you've got this kind of little belief sitting in a little bubble in our mind. It's saying, no, I'm alone. I exist. I'm on my own. I have no relationship to the rest of the mind. This awareness, this pure formless awareness is not me. I've denied it. And so it's created its own little thought bubble and identified with it. And it's just a belief that now seems to have an identity and a reality, and tempts us to believe that this is now reality. We're in this belief, and whatever comes from the belief is real, and the pure formless awareness that's actually everywhere is denied, and we identify with the belief and the seeming reality of what it's created, made, shall we say, to use correct language.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that?
I think it's saying that the ego only has power if we believe in it and give it power.
Yeah. And we see what he's trying to get us to see is what its goal is. This is so clearly senseless. All it's trying to do is say, I'm sufficient unto myself. I exist independent of anything else. So this is it. There's now only the belief in separation, but then doesn't consider, well, what's the underlying mind or awareness that believes this? Doesn't consider that. Just says, no, the belief is it. That's it. There's only the belief. That's it. So it's kind of it doesn't have a true source. You see that? Because it's not acknowledging that there's some pre-existing mind or awareness that could believe this in the first place. It just goes, oh well, I came into existence spontaneously of myself, and that's it. And stop questioning. Just accept that I'm true and real without going into the origin and the source, which is kind of where science ends up. The Big Bang and stuff. They'll go there, but then they can't consider, well, how did this all arise? As Rupert Sheldrake says, well, science accepts that there's one free miracle. It all popped into existence out of nothing. And then we go from there. We talk about the how after that moment of the Big Bang, but never really consider why. Like, okay, so why did that actually happen? Because that's not a scientific question, it's a philosophical question. It's science, the how mindset of science can't really answer that. So then they just avoid the question, which is exactly what the ego does. Doesn't want to really look and see what its error is, so that it can be undone. Because that questions at its foundation. If you say, well, why did this separation seem to happen? You start getting into, well, maybe it didn't happen. You see, maybe actually, if I ask why, maybe I eventually see that that the belief isn't true, so it never really happened. Which is where he's trying to take us, which is then the undoing of the whole thought system. Which is where we've had this conversation before. Your sticking point is, well, the why. But if you keep asking that, eventually you see, well, maybe it actually didn't. If there's no good reason for it, if there's no why for the belief in separation, maybe it actually never happened. You see? Do you see where it leads to?
Yeah.
There's no good reason for it. Okay, well, maybe then the next step is I can accept it never really happened. And of course, then the ego is really done for, because if the belief in separation never really happened, none of the effects of it are real, then I must be back in God or love, perfect love, or pure formless awareness, because the only thing that denies that state of mind is this belief in separation. So yeah, there's many ways of looking at it, but it all comes back to denying that tiny mad idea that it ever happened, because there's no reason for it. There was never a reason for the tiny mad idea to happen. God didn't sponsor it. It's just a random crazy idea. That's what Jesus is trying to get us to see, and our belief in it is not justified. So just let it go. Okay. Happy with number 4? Did you do a summary?
Can't remember. No, I didn't.
Trying to give a little summary, just a quick overview what he's saying there.
I'm thinking, saying again that the ego only has power if we give it power. It can't affect us.
Yeah. And its goal is quite explicitly its own autonomy. And it wants to simply exist unto itself, independent of our true awareness, which is a senseless goal. Well, why would you seek to be all on your own and separate yourself from the awareness that the mind that actually believes doesn't, it's senseless, doesn't make sense. That's what he's saying from the start.
Yeah.
Okay, so happy to move on.
Yeah.
We're doing all right today, actually.
Yeah. Can I just make a quick cup of tea?
Yeah, okay, no problem.
Yeah, it won't be long.
Take a couple of minutes. And All right.
Yep.
We're back. Let's just resume the recording. Okay. So let's carry on, shall we? All right. So where were we? Number 5, I think.
Yep. Every idea has a purpose, and its purpose is always the natural outcome of what it is. Everything that stems from the belief in separation, the natural outcome of its central belief. And the way to undo its results is merely to recognize that their source is not natural, being out of accord with your true nature. I said before that to will contrary to pure formless awareness is wishful thinking and not real willing.
Okay.
It's awareness.
We want to change willing. Wishful thinking, not real willing. Or not real awareness. What do you think?
Yeah.
Does that work?
Yeah, I think it does
I
actually.
think it's better than willing. Because a lot, like, so what does that willing actually mean? Not real willing. Sort of we think of willing as being willing to do something, typically. But this is more than that. Real willing is actually just an awareness of the truth. Okay.
Its awareness one, because the extension of its its awareness is one because the extension of its awareness cannot be unlike itself. Well, its awareness is one because its extension cannot be unlike itself.
Yeah. Extension of maybe of. So awareness is one because the extension cannot be unlike itself. Happy with that?
Yeah. The real conflict you experience then is between the belief in separation's idle wishes and the love's awareness which you share. Can this be a real conflict?
And the will of God. We'll just keep it as that. We don't need the awareness of the pure formless awareness of perfect love. It's just the pure formless awareness of perfect love is the will of God.
So it's saying again here that the ego can only have power, but it's saying that the belief in separation is not natural because it's out of accord with our own true nature. Therefore stems from nothing, as far as we're concerned. Or has no power unless we give it to it.
To will contrary to pure formless awareness is wishful thinking and not real awareness. So awareness is one because the extension of this awareness cannot be unlike itself. Which is the key point. Of course it can't be unlike itself. It is what it is. That awareness is that awareness. Full stop, really. That's what the Course is saying. That awareness is that awareness. Love's awareness is love's awareness. And there can be no difference. There can be no separation from that.
No.
So therefore, you must be that awareness too. And any belief in separation is simply an idle wish. Belief in separation's idle wish is to be autonomous, to be on its own, to invent this whole alternate, belief system and reality, or this pure formless awareness of perfect love, which you share. Can this really be a conflict? Can this be a real conflict between what you've imagined and invented and between what is actually real? Okay, do you want to give a little summary of number 5?
Well, I think okay. So the belief in separation only has power if it's not part of our natural. It's not part of our nature. Therefore, it has no power over us unless we specifically give it to it.
And because our source is pure formless awareness, or perfect love, this awareness must still be like itself in our mind. It cannot be otherwise. So we must experience, if we believe in separation, we're believing in an illusion.
Yeah.
And denying this pure formless awareness is our awareness. This is the ego's whole delusion. Can this really be a real conflict, or is it just a delusion in our mind? So what he's trying to get us to see, it's not like, oh, I'm at war with the ego, I'm fighting it. It's just to recognize the delusional nature.
Yeah, I think that's what this whole section is about, isn't it?
And then let it go, because it's delusional. Like it's not a real belief. So you don't fight it. You simply, by recognizing that it's false and delusional and insane and all these things, you simply let go of your belief in it, and then it has no power over you.
Yeah.
Okay, happy to move on?
Yeah.
Number 6.
Yours is the independence of extension or creation, not of autonomy. Yours is the independence of extension, not of autonomy. Your whole creative function lies in your complete dependence on love or pure formless awareness, whose function it shares with you.
Okay, let's just his function it shares with you. Okay?
By his willingness to share it, by its willingness to share it, it became as dependent on you as you are on it. Do not ascribe the belief in separation's arrogance to it. It wills not to be independent of you.
Okay, does it make sense as we unpack it as we go?
So do not give belief in separation's arrogance to pure formless awareness, which does not want to be independent of you. It has included you in its autonomy. Do we want to change the word autonomy?
In its autonomy, with a capital A rather than a small a.
We just look at the word, the meaning of autonomy, John.
Yeah. Sort of means independent existence, independent unto itself, autonomous, has its own. Let's have a look. Autonomy meaning. Self-governing, right of self-government. Okay, so it's usually related to quality or state of being self-governing. So it's usually used in that sense, but in personal autonomy, self-directing freedom, and especially moral independence.
I like the moral independence.
A self-governing state. So self-governing really is the essence of it, isn't it? Included in its governance, in its self-governance. What do you think?
Well,
was that clarified, or do we just leave it as the original?
I'm not sure it helps. I mean, maybe it's just good to talk about it and leave it.
Yeah. Autonomy.
There
isn't an obviously good translation, is there, to it? Like that's a simple autonomy, the state of being self-governing. But just a word to do that is
Yeah.
A self-governing state or self-directing. Included you in its. Yeah, I think let's just keep it, eh?
I think so, because governance, you start getting into kind of.
Yeah. It starts changing the
Yeah.
autonomy. So just maybe we should. What we should do is include that in our term definition of terms. What do you think?
Different self-autonomy. Yeah. Yeah.
Problem or autonomy. Autonomy. See the governance of God/love/ and we'll just go God, pure formless awareness. That. So it's like a self-governance that we are part of. I.e. a consistent thought system based on oneness. When small belief in separations, autonomy, governance based take that out. So happy with that? You want to read that definition? You muted, John, somehow. I don't know how you got muted.
Sorry, the phone was ringing. When capitalized, refers to the self-governance of God, pure formless awareness, the perfect love that we are part of, i.e. a consistent thought system based on oneness. When spelt with a small letter, refers to the ego's governance and thought-based refers to the ego's
system. Yeah, thought system. Based on the belief in separation from okay, and then see this. Actually, I'll put in the reference later because I'm creating my own version, so we won't reference to the external links anymore. Okay, an autonomous system we're creating, I guess. We translated the whole thing. We still need to do more. No, we need to do more. Okay, so from number 6.
Yeah, it's good.
Can you believe that? Then I don't think we went beyond this, John.
Right, okay. Can you believe that autonomy is meaningful apart from it? The belief in separation's autonomy is costing you the knowledge of your dependence on pure formless awareness, in which your freedom lies.
I think we should have another. There's been many its. Last time you referred to what the it is way back in sentence 2. So apart from belief in separation's autonomy. It's like the belief in separation. I mean, the belief in what do you think? Should we simplify that?
I'm just quite happy with the belief in separation's autonomy.
Yeah. Belief in ego's autonomy, yeah. Okay.
It's costing you the knowledge of your dependence on pure formless awareness, in which your freedom lies. Yes, the belief in separation lies. It sees all dependency as threatening and has twisted even your longing for love into a means of establishing itself.
Maybe sees as perceives.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Do not be deceived by its interpretation of your conflict. Okay. You want to read it from the top?
Yours is the independence of extension, not of autonomy. Your whole creative function is in your complete dependence on pure formless awareness of perfect love, whose function it shares with you. By its willingness to share it, it became as dependent on you as you are on it.
So we change this creative.
Oh yeah.
Your whole extending function.
Yeah.
Extend whole function. How about that's interesting. Extensive function.
Okay.
Extensive. So it's that is a double meaning, doesn't it? But I quite like that.
It was. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an extensive function. Okay, so it's a big function, extensive, but
Yeah.
I'd have extending as well.
So we got down to number 4.
Mm-hmm.
You do not ascribe the belief in separation's arrogance to it, which wills not to be independent of you. It has included you in its autonomy. Can you believe that autonomy is meaningful apart from pure formless awareness of perfect love? Belief in separation's autonomy is costing you the knowledge of your dependence on pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which your freedom lies. The belief in separation perceives all dependency twisted even your longing for pure formless awareness of perfect love into a means of establishing itself. Do not be deceived by its interpretation of your conflict. Jono, I'm going to have to go.
Okay. Do you want to summarize this and then?
Yep. So I'd say that is.
On that.
It's saying don't ascribe any degree of autonomy to the ego, because it doesn't merit it, and it's a waste of time giving it, and it will only feed it if you do so, and take away from your connection, from our connection with love.
Yeah. So you cannot believe in its autonomy because it costs you the knowledge of your complete dependence on pure formless awareness of perfect love, in which your freedom lies.
Good. Okay, John.
All right. Thank you, John.
Leave you.
So, have a good weekend, and I'll see you.
We won't be around on Sunday.
Really? Okay. Yeah, we're doing a afternoon session on Sunday.
Yeah. We've got the final rehearsal in the afternoon Sunday, and then the concert on Sunday evening.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Good luck with that one.
Yes. Thanks. Yeah.
And look forward to hearing how it goes hearing how it went on Monday.
Yeah.
So